Ask a free car question at 2carpros.com. Hello and welcome to 2Car Pros. Today we're going to show you how to change the wheel bearing in a Chevrolet Suburban between the years of 1992 and 1999. The first thing we need to do is lift the car into the air and remove the wheel. Next, we're going to turn the caliper and wheel assembly to a more workable position and then remove the caliper. Next, we need to tap this wheel cap off. Next, we need to remove this cotter pin. Next, we need to remove this castle nut. Next, we need to grab a rubber mallet to strike the rotor with. This will sort of jiggle one of the wheel bearings out, and we can remove it. Next, we need to put the castle nut back on to get the inner wheel bearing off. Once we've put the castle nut on, we can use the rotor to get the inner wheel bearing off. This is what an overused and broken wheel bearing looks like. Next, we can compare our old wheel bearings to our new ones to make sure that they're just newer versions of them. Next, we need to remove one of the wheel bearing sleeves by placing the rotor on two pieces of wood as a buffer and then using a long punch and a hammer. Now we can begin to replace the wheel sleeves. We can use the old wheel sleeve as a buffer between the hammer and the new sleeve to punch it into place. Next, we're going to take a big dollop of grease, put it in our non-dominant hand, and use the wheel bearings as a sort of cup to force grease into the proper channels. Remember, it's better to use too much grease than not enough. Don't forget to grease the sleeves as well. Now we can do the same thing for the inner bearing. Now we can install the outer bearing. Now, while keeping our thumb on the outer bearing, we can reinstall the rotor. Now replace the washer and the castle nut. As the castle nut gets snug, we can spin the rotor to get it to its correct position. Hold the castle nut still and spin the rotor. The rotor will eventually catch on the threads, and this is where the castle nut should lie. Now this part's really important. You need to replace the cotter pin. You're going to need to use a brand new cotter pin. These are cheap and available pretty much at any auto parts store. Next, replace the cap. Next, we're going to need to clean the rotor since we mucked it up with grease earlier. Make sure you do this because the grease will inhibit it from stopping. And don't forget to clean both sides of the rotor. Now we can reinstall the caliper. Next, we can reinstall the wheel, making sure we bolt it on in a star pattern. Now we can set the vehicle on the ground and torque the lugs to proper factory specification. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please visit twocarpros.com.